This is Sri Radha Debroy, your sociology educator. So today we will be doing part 2 of our MCQ series, and if you haven't watched part 1 already, I'll link it at the end of this video. Do not forget to check that out. Now these are my basic academic details, and before starting with the video, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so that you are notified every time I upload a video. Now after every question, I'll give you a 5 to 10 seconds pause so that you can think of the answer, or you can pause the video as well and think of the answer, and after that we will have a discussion. So let us start with the first question. So sociology is the science of understanding of the meaning of social action. The statement was made by Max Weber, Auguste Comte, Herbert Spencer, Emile Durkheim. So you can think of the answer. Alright, so the answer is Max Weber. Max Weber was the one who said that sociology is the science of understanding of the meaning of social action. So according to Weber, understanding the meaning of social action, or the meaning behind why a social action is happening, is basically the subject matter of sociology. So we are now moving on to our next question. So Khasi tribes living in the hills of Meghalaya are matrilineal, patrilineal, bilineal and cognatic. So you can think of the answer. So the answer is matrilineal. So Khasi tribes living in the hills of Meghalaya are matrilineal. Who among the following has differentiated between class in itself and class for itself? Max Weber, Karl Marx, Thorsten Veblen and Stouffer. So you can think of the answer now. Okay, so the answer to this question is Karl Marx. So he was the one who differentiated between class in itself and class for itself. Now what is meant by this? So he basically said that there are roughly two categories in a society, two classes, that are the capitalist classes or the bourgeois classes and the working classes or the proletariat. So what happens is that the capitalist classes are always exploiting the working classes. Now what happens is that the working class is not always aware of the fact that it is getting exploited. So this condition is class in itself. So when the working class is not aware of the exploitation, this condition is called class in itself. And when the class is aware of the exploitation, so when it starts getting aware of its condition, it is called class for itself. Alright, so we have moved on to our next question. Which among the following is considered as the benefit of e-commerce? Speeding the buying process, no geographical location, tax issues, and both A and B. So you have your time to think. Alright, so the answer to this question is both A and B. Now what is e-commerce? E-commerce is basically the online transactions and online shopping, that is a buying and selling that you do. So now what happens in case of conventional shopping? So you have to go to that place, then you have to select your things and stand in a long line to make the billing. So basically a lot of time is invested in this process. But in case of e-commerce, the buying process is speeded up. And also there is no question of geographical location. So you can sit back at your home, in the comfort of your home you can do the commercial activities. So basically both A and B stands true for this question. Next question is, who was the first sociologist to write about the concept of community and its particular characteristics? So the options are Ferdinand Tonnies, Emile Durkheim, Max Weber and Charles Wright Mills. So you have your time to think. Alright, so the answer to this question is Ferdinand Tonnies. Now he gives two concepts, that is Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft. I'll explain what are these. So Gemeinschaft is basically translated into community and Gesellschaft means association. So Gemeinschaft is characterized by personal relationships. So this is typically found in rural and peasant communities where relationships are an end to themselves. And in case of Gesellschaft, it is typically found in modern industrial societies which are characterized by, say, bureaucratic associations. So you see, in a bureaucratic association, relationships are not personal. So every relationship has an interest attached to them. So basically, it is here interest driven. Who introduced the term white collar crime? Giddens, Burgess, Sutherland, and Durkheim. So you have your time to think. Alright, so the answer to this question is Sutherland. So he was the one who introduced the term white collar crime. Now what is white collar crime? White collar crime is basically that type of crimes which the respectable people in certain respectable positions of their jobs do these crimes. White collar crimes are basically committed by people of higher social status in course of their occupation. So basically a government official taking a bribe would be an example of white collar crime. The next question we have is, which of the following is called women's movement? Champaran Satyagraha, Indigo Revolt, Bardoli Satyagraha and Chipko Movement. So you have your time to think. Okay, so the answer to this question is Chipko Movement. Now Chipko Movement is also called a women's movement, but you must remember that it is not exclusively a women's movement. That is, men also participated in this movement, but there was a large participation of the woman population. So what happened in this movement was that, so this movement occurred in Uttarakhand in the early 1970s. Specifically, it started in the 1973. To protest against deforestation, the people started clinging onto the trees or hugged the trees to save these trees from deforestation. And in course of this, many people lost their lives to protect the trees. Okay, so the next question we have is, the most important criteria of a good sample is small size, large size, representativeness and ambiguities. So I'll give you your time to think. Okay, so the answer to this question is option C, representativeness. Now what is meant by representativeness? It means how well or accurately a sample population is represented in the research. Okay, so the next question we have is, what is protective discrimination? Policy of reservation of seats in educational institutions, legislative body and jobs for weaker sections of society, policy for upliftment of upper classes, oppression and exploitation of untouchables, and none of these. So I will give you your time to think. The answer to this question is option A. So policy of reservation of seats in educational institutions, legislative body and jobs for weaker sections of society. This is a discrimination which is done to protect the weaker sections of society, and that is why it is called protective discrimination by the government. So we move on to the next question now. Alright, so the last question we have is, who gave the concept of expressive role and instrumental role? Karl Marx, Durkheim, Parsons and Weber. So you have your time to think. Okay, so the answer to this question is Parsons. So Talcott Parsons was the one who gave the concept of expressive role and instrumental role. Now I'll explain what are these. So Parsons says that in a nuclear family there is a division of labor between the husband and wife. So the husband's role is that of the instrumental role. Now what is meant by this? So the husband basically has the breadwinning role. So he moves out of the family to work in some sphere, and therefore he earns for the family to feed the family. So he basically looks after the economic needs of the family. The wife on the other hand looks after the children and the household. So she is basically responsible for looking after the emotional needs of the family. So she is basically performing the expressive role. So people, comment down below how many answers you got correct. And if this video was helpful, please do not forget to like, share and subscribe. I'll see you in my next video. Till then, keep shining.